Welcome to season 3.
Hello. How
Cheers.
are you?
I'm doing great. I've got a cough drop in my mouth, so I'm gonna hopefully not cough like crazy.
I'm gonna be just a little bit, but I've got some water here. So
Yeah, I got my water, I got another cough drop, I got my tissues. We're both kind of trying to deal with October allergies or cold or
something.
but that's not gonna stop us from having this wonderful interview.
Absolutely not.
So hello everybody and welcome to Change for the Better, the Power of Arts in Education, episode 34.
I'm Stacy Tiro, a high school performing arts teacher for over 25 years. I've taught a lot of amazing people. Now that so many of my students are adults, they'll teach me how, through the lessons in my classroom, they have been changed for the better.
And then my
Whoa.
little intro plays.
34.
34.
That is so many, Tiro.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud
You should be.
this is the third season. We're in the third season right now.
Ooh, 3 is my lucky number. So there was something in me that was calling to me to be
In the third
here now.
It's true. It's true. I've had some very lovely success, connecting with all these people who I remember so fondly. Like we worked so closely together. And then you guys left me,
As we unfortunately have to.
as you have to do. And it's been so amazing to like circle back and like
Yeah.
reconnect with all these people. And some of these people like graduated in 1996. Like I had
I saw there was an episode somebody that graduated in 93, right?
Mm-mm. No,
No? Not
96. That was
96.
my
Okay.
first year in Spring Valley,
Gotcha.
was December 1995, spring show, 1996.
Still.
Yeah, crazy. And I'm still like connected to these people. We don't talk all the time, but actually some I have pretty regular contact with, which is amazing. Let's get started with your interview. I'm very excited to welcome this person in front of me who graduated Spring Valley in 2012 with my episode 10 guest, Tendrina Alexandre, which was really cool. It's so funny because so many of you like bleed together as far as, when you graduated. I had to
Oh
like
yeah.
really like double check and make sure like, oh my God, yeah, that's right. This person was in that show. And she was another example of someone who found her high school home away from home in the dance studio and on the stage. Back in the day, she took modern dance, ballet when we offered ballet as a separate class, and multicultural dance during the school day. And then she jumped right into thespians, like right in her freshman year, another like ninth grader, bang, getting it done. She got her feet wet in the stage crew for that first year and a half, and then decided she was going to like jump in the deep end as a sophomore. And she auditioned for Pippin in 2010, and she got an ensemble role. And from that point forward, she found her comfort zone on stage. She had a bright, bubbly personality and added a really like a lively spark to everything that she worked on. She infused positivity and light into the community. And she found her people, her happy place, her happy activity, and her place just in the bigger picture. She was looking to find like where she belonged, which so many adolescents, at that age are looking to do. So she wanted to find that warm embrace of the theater community when she moved to college. She went to SUNY Plattsburgh, way upstate, right on that Canadian border. She went
Cold.
super
Cold.
cold. And she double majored in English writing arts and theater. And there she found a new family in one of the student-run theater organizations, and she auditioned for their production of Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes.
And from that point forward, that was it. She found her new happy place. It wasn't in Spring Valley, but listen, you gotta take it where you can. And there She immersed herself in many of their productions. She gained experience in stage management, running a light board, managing props, acting, and even wrote a couple of one-act shows, which I did not know, and I'll have to talk to you about later on. She also took part in the theater department shows, exploring her
Absolutely.
new passion, which was puppetry, which I thought was really fascinating. After graduation, Melissa worked locally back in Rockland for the Rockland Conservatory of Music until she found work as an executive assistant for a bunch of Manhattan based companies. And most recently, I think you said back in August, she landed an executive assistant position with Piper Sandler, which is a Manhattan based investment bank. So wherever she goes, she brings that same aura of positivity, that sense of teamwork, and the creative problem solving to make her community a better place. I'm really excited to get started so you can get to know this ray of sunshine. What is your name, the year you graduated, and tell me a little more about what you do now.
My name is Melissa Iglody. I graduated Spring Valley in 2012. And right now, I just started this new job with Piper Sandler. So I work out of the Manhattan office, but they are actually, I think their headquarters is based in Minneapolis, which I just visited for the first time ever. My first
Wow.
business trip ever last week for corporate orientation. I have been working with their restructuring group, which was newly acquired, the TRS Advisors. And they pretty much just needed somebody else to come in and help with their day-to-day stuff, help a few of their managing directors and bankers with travel deals that they're working on. And to be completely honest, I am still learning so much about the sphere that I'm in because I never imagined myself in a role like this at a company like this. Honestly, thinking about it, it didn't matter to me like what industry I ended up in. I wanted to find my place like in the bigger picture of life on this blue marble that we're just hanging out on. I found that where I am now, and
And
it feels really, really good. I'm supported by great people and I work with great people. Everybody is so smart and driven, and I'm really excited about this new chapter in my life, which is the way I'm really framing it.
there are so many questions that I think will come out about this shift away from performing arts, which you were so entrenched in both in high
Yeah.
school and in college. But I am curious as our conversation goes to see how all of that sort of applies to this, new shift in your
And it totally does. It totally does.
Okay. Okay, good. So let's just kind of pause for a second. And I want you to use your adult brain and go back and
Mm.
describe your adolescent self.
Oh God, she was fearless. She was, like you said, that like ray of sunshine, did not care what people thought about her. You know, as you grow up, I feel like sometimes you do lose that, not like childlike sense of wonder, like that kind of thing, but you grow up, and so you do kind of sometimes lose those bits of yourself. She was fun, carefree, and fearless, and just bouncy.
She was, I remember,
Ah.
had a lot of energy.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're remembering your time in the studio, in thespians, in dance, what was something that happened there that helped you to manage or to regulate your sort of turbulent adolescent self?
I think being with people that were like me
Mm.
really helped me kind of like come into my own. And like I said, like I was kind of like bouncy, a little bit all over the place, which I think we all are at
Mhm.
that age. Finding my people kind of just helped me hone that a little bit more in myself and find like a common space where I, as well as like all of my peers and my friends, could like channel that energy into something and see it work in real time. funneling all of your energy into like a dance number or a production or like like scene work and seeing it come to life, it makes you kind of just sit back and be like, wow, we did that. And that's so beautiful to have just like created something from nothing,
Yeah.
if that makes sense a little.
100%. And that sense of community that you're talking about
Yeah.
is a running theme in this podcast. So many of the interviews, when I ask this question, they talk about the people, they talk about the community, they talk about sort of being immersed in the different personalities and the different ideas that get thrown around. Community is such a powerful motivator. It lifts people up. It like gets people out of themselves and
Yes.
into that bigger picture, which is, what you're talking about. Well, what are some of the lessons that you might have learned that you think about or use today? And this is like you can apply this to this new chapter in your life.
Yeah. So this is something that I think about all the time. And I really do think back when I was in Pippin on stage for the first time, I think you were the one that said it to me. Cause I was like, oh, I auditioned for this show and there are so many like bigger roles in this show. There were people in my graduating class that had bigger roles than I did. And I was like, oh, well, I'm just the ensemble. And I thought of it as a just
Mm-hmm.
because it was almost like, just the smallest thing that you could do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you said to me at one point, and I don't remember what you said exactly, but it was something to the effect of like, you're just as important in this show as any other person up there. Because if we don't have ensemble, then we don't have the people looking cool and creepy in the background or like doing XYZ on stage while the principals are up there doing their thing. And that was something that I really took to heart. And I was like, no, that's so true. Like what would the stage look like without the stuff in the background or like the little side pieces going on while like the main action is happening? And not only did I bring that to college, when I again was in the ensemble for Rocky Horror, I did the department's production of Oklahoma. I was also in the ensemble for that. And I was like, it's not just being in, the group, the ensemble, the chorus. It's you are still part of this bigger thing that goes on with everybody. And even in my job now, people think, oh, you're an assistant, you're an executive assistant. That's like a small thing that you could do. But there is so much that goes on with those roles, like behind the scenes that we take care of, that if that stuff doesn't get done and if it doesn't go smoothly, there are other people that can't do their jobs. And there are things that fall through the cracks that small piece that you think is small and like insignificant is so not. And as small of a role you think you play, you totally don't. That is something that has stuck with me through everything in my life that I think I've been through.
There are no small parts, only small actors.
Totally. Absolutely not.
And it is a matter of perspective and how you're looking at things, because you're right. Without having those roles there, the bigger roles, you're right, can't do their job. Those roles are there for a purpose. There's a
Yes.
reason for them. You might decide to stay an executive assistant through the end of your career, or you can take that and move up and understand that that role will be very important to you as you're moving forward.
Yeah. And, even aside from playing a part in the ensemble in different shows and being on stage,
Mhm.
as you mentioned, and as I'll probably ultimately talk a little more about, I did a lot of stuff backstage as well. When I started Thespians in high school, when I did all of my theater stuff in college, I say almost in every interview that I've ever gone into, I try and kind of, bring part of myself to the interview. Like, obviously, you want to know who you're hiring for the job, all the bells and whistles. My favorite thing to include and let people know, like, I do come from a theater background and I did that in my undergrad, is I like to think of being an executive assistant or being an office manager or being a receptionist as backstage for The Office, because we take care of everything on the back end. And as long as all of that stuff is moving smoothly, like the well-oiled machine that it needs to, everybody else on the front end on stage can do what they need to, and the show can go on.
You are the producer, baby.
Exactly.
I will always have an appreciation for, the kid that's like in the back there, and maybe they have like one thing to do, but it's that one important thing that if they weren't doing it, it wouldn't go right.
If they don't say like whatever that one like quip is, whoever comes next isn't going to know, because then like that's their cue. It goes in order. You still like follow a script in certain things in your life.
Absolutely. And I would imagine that in corporate, it's even especially true that you're still producing something, whether it's a deal or a merger or something that you're, putting together, you're still making something happen. So
Yeah.
your job is to use your creativity, to use your common sense, to use your brains to help that run smoothly.
Yeah.
So if you're sort of comparing yourself then to yourself now, how do you think you've changed since you graduated from high school?
I think I've definitely calmed down a little bit, which I think, everybody can speak to a little bit.
Yeah.
Not as like crazy bounce off the walls as I was, although, I'll always still be myself. I feel like I've just been through so much, honestly. And I don't super want to go into this because it's not, really the point. But in the past year, I have had so many changes in my life, even after the pandemic, from December of last year to where I am now. I lost my job at the end of last year. I was in and out of the hospital a couple times. I had gotten a temp job that ended unexpectedly, and I was unemployed all summer. I was in a relationship that lasted, I don't know, 2.5 years, that I thought was going to be like it. And then it wasn't. And it was ultimately not good for me. I was practicing some really bad habits that I thought were going to be fine and weren't.
Mm.
I've been through so much. And I feel like just in the past, maybe like year to the past 3 years, like I've grown up so much and learned so much about myself and like what I can handle in my life and changes that I can handle in my life. And now at this point, I'm like, I'm out of the hospital. I'm healthy. I have, this great new job, this chapter starting in my life. Like I can withstand anything. I don't know that I would have thought I could before.
If I remember correctly, you were pretty resilient before.
Thank you. At this point in my life, I feel like I have to agree with you, although my adolescent self might not have. I think there's credit to be given to myself, but also anybody that has just gone through so much, and the whole world has gone through so much in the past few years. Resilience, I think, is something that I've really grown into and realized that I do have a lot of.
So what would your adult Melissa self tell your high school self now to like help ease the way?
Wow, there's so much.
Mm.
I honestly think that I would tell her to just keep on being who she is, that no matter what life has to throw at her, no matter what she feels like she's going through, that she can take it, and she's stronger than she probably thinks she is. Just keep on keeping on. She's amazing. And she honestly back then probably didn't know it enough to really believe it.
Yeah.
She does now.
It's funny because I always ask these questions, and I think the way I look at the teenagers, the way I look at adolescents, is the way that their adult selves look at themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like they walk in with all of their like, chaos and adolescentness. And I see how emotionally unstable they are, just naturally. And then whatever personal issues on top of all that, have add to it. All I want to tell them is like, you're gonna be okay. You're
Yeah.
really gonna be okay. Just keep on keeping on. Keep pushing through. We're here to support you. We're here to guide you. And you can lean on yourself because you're totally capable of that. And
Yeah.
sometimes they believe it, sometimes they don't. I asked that question and I'm like, yep, that's what I would have told you. That's what I would have told that kid.
What is that? I always mix it up, but it's a really great quote from Winnie the Pooh.
Mm,
And I think Christopher Robin says it, and he says, always remember you're smarter than you think, you're braver than you believe, and stronger than you seem, or something to that effect. And I feel
mm.
like that's something that I would totally say to my adolescent self,
Yeah.
or any adolescent, really.
I'm gonna look up that quote and I'm gonna get the right wording on that.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I will quote it from that because it's so true. It's so true. All right, well let's kind of project forward to now, from your adolescence to now. What is something that you're grappling with at this point in your life?
So I think because recently I've been through so much,
Mhm.
I'm I'm really grappling with, and I've always, like, even as a teenager, I've always kind of adopted this motto of like, I don't like to regret things in my life, because ultimately I'm really, really happy with where I am in the present moment. So having been through so much and having so much hindsight
Mhm.
about what I've gone through, I'm really grappling with being okay with having made those mistakes, having said that, like, what I was doing wasn't healthy for me physically or mentally or emotionally, or being in this situation wasn't what's best for me. And now, sitting with all of that, now I have to be okay with not regretting what I've been through, because I'm still happy with where I ended up.
Yeah.
And it comes and goes in waves. You are fine one day and you are like, I love my job, I love my life, like I love this chapter that I'm in. And then all of a sudden, like, you go back home and the sun sets and you're by yourself and everybody else has gone to sleep, and you're like, wow, like there's so much that has changed. It all starts churning in your head, and you think about, like, what could I have done differently to have not, like, lost XYZ in my life. Again, like, you have to be okay with mistakes that you've made in your life and ending up where you are, and being okay with that, because that's life and that's what, like, we all have to go through. My mom has this one thing that she says all the time, and I feel like I'm big on quotes today, but she always says, and I always believe, the universe's timing is always right, even if it doesn't suit your ego. And I live by that.
Yeah.
It's so true that you don't think that what you're going through is necessary, or you don't think that, you deserve to have, like, things taken away from you, or to be, like, put through the ringer with certain things in your life, but it ends up being good for you
Yeah.
ultimately.
There's a concept in psychology, and I've been through a lot of therapy in my life. And there's that,
Haven't we all?
you know, that's another big running theme on the podcast. Therapy, good.
Very.
But there's this thought of radical acceptance that,
Yeah.
for all of the terrible things that we've experienced or that we think of ourselves or of the world, sometimes you just have to accept that it's there, accept that it's true, and that you are okay to move forward from that point. That feeling of, yeah, I feel all of this stuff, and I just have to be okay with feeling that and
Yeah.
moving forward from there.
I'm a big believer in the community of the human experience.
Mhm.
And I've gotten back into reading a little bit more recently, which has kind of kickstarted my writer's brain. So I actually just wrote this thing the other night. One of my old professors called it a moment of clarity. And it's sort of just this moment that like has come to me, an epiphany in times in my life where we're all so connected as human beings, even if we don't know what's going on in a stranger's life. We experience the same emotions. We don't go through the same storms on our little boats, but we have been through storms. That's something just as human beings that we all go through together, whether we think we're alone or not. We're never really alone.
That's so true. And that's where community becomes so important, and connections
Yes.
are, fellow people, that we're really more the same than not the same. And if
Yeah.
we could just get out of our own way, with politics and all that, the social media nonsense, and just like look people in the face and say, okay, I'm me, you're you, but we probably have a lot more in common than we actually think we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me one thing that you miss about your high school self, and one thing that has gotten better.
I definitely do miss, like I said, I was fearless
Mm-hmm.
before. Like even when I was in high school and even like as a younger kid,
Mm-hmm.
I never cared what people thought of me. I wore what I wanted to wear. I, carried myself with that swagger of like, I'm me, and if you don't like it, that's your loss.
Well,
Um, I feel like as I've grown up, I have sort of like let the world dictate a little bit of like how I see myself, or I kind of do care like what people are thinking about me or how I'm coming off to certain people. So I definitely miss that a little bit for
mhm.
sure. Just being younger and being not naive, but
There's like a little bit of a healthy narcissism in that
yeah,
aspect.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So I think I definitely miss that, but it's also something that I am kind of like getting back a little bit as
Mhm.
I'm, oh boy, approaching 30. So crazy. Um, and I think one thing that's gotten better,
Mm.
I I used to not really, I've always liked hanging out with myself. Like I've always really enjoyed my own company, and that's something
Mhm.
that I'm like proud of.
Mhm.
But I I really I really like to like recharge by being alone these days. And when I was in high school, like, and when I was in college, there were extracurriculars all over the place. You're spending your day with your friends and your peers and your teachers constantly. You're constantly on, and go to thespians at the end of the day, and get to let out some of that crazy, which is so great. And then you reach the end of your day, and you get to have that quiet,
Mm.
that sort of those times for like inward reflection, and the times when you don't have to be on. And so I really am appreciating like those kinds of moments in my adulthood now, where I can like sit down with a book, or sit down with my guitar, or sit down with my laptop and just like have that quiet time to myself, and enjoy my own company, really.
And be creative, in
Yes.
your own right, and letting the brain kind of decompress and recharge itself just without any other influences there. There's something
Yeah.
really, really valuable. When I get home, the first thing that I want to do is open my laptop and start writing, and like, edit a video and make a blog post. And there's something, I don't want to say therapeutic about it, although I feel like there's a part of that,
There is definitely something therapeutic about it, because I feel like that is a form of self-care, that you want to feed into your own creativity on your own terms.
Mhm.
And being able to do that, like, it does something for our brains to just like calm us down and like center and ground us. And there's something really, really important and beautiful about that.
Absolutely. You started to go into some advice to yourself. Can you expand that and give a piece or two of sage advice to high school students now? Like, what would that be? What could you say to them?
So I would definitely reiterate what I was talking about a little bit before,
Mhm.
and say, definitely have confidence in yourself,
Mm,
believe in yourself, because you really don't know how strong, how smart, how brave you are until you go through something and you're on the other side of it in adulthood and saying like, wow, I was more resilient in all those ways than I thought. So I feel like definitely have confidence in yourself, even if you don't believe you have it,
mhm.
fake it till you make it, because that has been proven to work too.
I'm a
Um,
big fan of
I
fake it till you
also
make it.
seriously, no, it works, trust me.
Yeah.
I also, I would give the piece of advice to adolescents and teenagers in general, but also like to my younger self as well. Like, do not dull your spark for anybody, because listen, I have been there one too many times,
Mhm.
and it is never worth it. It's beautiful when you get to come back to yourself and say like, oh, I have missed you. I have missed this girl or this person or whoever. And it is so beautiful to like get back to yourself, but it's never worth it, because at the end of the day, spending time with yourself and being able to have those moments to yourself, you look around and you have your loved ones, you have your peers, you have your friends, but really when it comes down to it, you have yourself. And that's the relationship that you're going to have in your life the longest. And it's going to be ultimately the most important to you. So make sure it's the good one.
Love thyself.
Yes.
Love yourself
Preach.
first. First, you are number one.
Yes,
And then you can love everyone and everything else that you choose to love.
exactly.
I love that. You talked about self-care, which I want to swing back to.
Sure.
What are 3 self-care practices that you do now to help regulate and center yourself?
I'm a big routine person. One of the things that I do is a very small routine that I do every single day, but I have this journal that my stepsister gave to me. It's a 5-year memory journal. You write down like one memory from your day. And it's like a planner. So it has like, the days of the, whatever the year, and you write in the year, and you write down one thing that like you want to remember about that day, or that made you smile, or like that just I've taken to writing a few things down. So that sort of like journaling really helps me sort of focus on the good in my life and reflect on my day. It also gives you an opportunity to go back and see, where was I a year ago, and what was I doing, and what was important to me, or what to focus on, what's really important. I also really like to just go for walks, honestly. I will never take for granted the fresh air and being able to go outside and breathe and like get my body, just like shake my body out from like being stiff in one place, or like, my office is by Rockefeller Center, so it's a really wonderful area that I just, if I'm like I've been sedentary for too long, I just get up and I go walk to Rockefeller Center and like see like the light in tourists' eyes when they like see the city. And like it's just again, I have my little moments of like the human experience, and we're all connected, and we all have like just feeling like that bigger picture and the fresh air and getting my body moving is really important and good. And the last thing I would say, I know I briefly mentioned guitar, but music has become something that's like really important and big in my life. And being able to like get your yayas out by like strumming on an instrument, like singing words really fast, whether you get them right or wrong, and just being able to get that energy out. Like if I'm frustrated about something, I'll pick a song that I know, like I know all the words to, I can just like sing, like get out. And before I know it, I'm like, oh wow, I feel so much better. Or like I just needed to like get that out, you know?
If I remember correctly, you were, and I'm assuming are, still a huge Taylor Swift fan.
Oh, yes. 100%, 1,000%.
Yeah.
I probably know, I don't know her entire, catalog on guitar, but I do play a lot of her music. Geez, she has honestly gotten me through so much in
Mm.
my life. She just had a new album come out, which is so great. I've been jamming on it for the past week that it's been out. Her music, just music in general, has been so therapeutic and, like catharsis for me.
Yeah, I remember from high school, you were kind of like a wannabe Taylor Swiftie, which
Oh yeah,
is
still am.
adorable.
I mean, we've got the same haircut.
I know, I know. You always kind of mirrored her as far as your look.
Yeah.
I think I think it was one like dress up day, you dressed up as Taylor Swift, something like that. If I
Yeah, you know what? I actually I went to a release party this past weekend in Brooklyn because
Mhm.
there was just like a dance party they were throwing at a club. And I was like, I don't care that I'm gonna go to this by myself because all of my friends were busy. Nobody's really like a Swiftie the way I am. And I was like, I don't want to stop myself from doing this just because I'm gonna go alone. And I dressed up as Taylor. It was also kind of like a Halloween party.
Yeah.
Dressed up as Taylor, danced with other fans, sang lyrics in each other's faces, celebrated the new album. Other people were dressed up like her too. Again, it's like that sense of community. And yeah, the human experience and just like being able to connect on those things. It's so important to have that, to find that.
Yeah.
And when you do, like you don't realize, oh, you almost don't realize what you're missing if you don't like know what it is to have it.
Mhm.
And then once you do, you're like, God, this is good.
Yeah. Yeah. And that honestly, that starts, back in high school,
Yeah.
kind of experiencing what that is all about, finding
Yes.
that community. And, it could be in sports, it could be at thespians, it could be in any club activity, it could be in a classroom,
Yeah.
really appreciating the people around you and working on projects and feeling successful and feeling like you've accomplished and participated in something and contributed yourself to something.
Yes.
There's nothing that replaces that. A math test is not going to give you that feeling like a drama club does.
It's very true.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for participating and
Oh
bringing
my God.
yourself.
Thank you.
It's such a special thing to be able to draw on not just my experience with you, but your experience with me and with the people that we, shared so much in such important times with, and that they were really meaningful to you and they still are meaningful to you.
Yes, they absolutely are. And again, like, I don't know if I asked myself back in high school, like, is this all going to still stick with you? I don't know what I would have said, but I'm so glad that it has and it continues to. For listeners out there, like, you may not think a lot of things, but believe it'll stick with you. And God, it's good.
Well, on that note, I don't think I could say anything more or better. Thank you, Melissa Iglody, for coming to join your old theater teacher. Join us for next episode, which is episode 35. We're already right in the middle of season 3. Tune in next time for A Change for the Better, the power of arts in education. Yay!
Outro music.
Outro music. Dun, dun, dun.